Alright, what's going on today, guys? Since you guys already know by the title of this video what this video is going to be about, let's not waste time and get looking at the new car. Okay, so as many of you guys might know, this is a 2019 Genesis G70 3.3T Dynamic Edition. Now the color of this car is Havana Red. This is the only color available here in the US for the Dynamic Edition, since this is one of the two limited editions available here, along with the Design Edition, which came in a special green/gray color, which was only limited to the Design Edition. But here we have the Dynamic Edition, which is in Havana Red, and Havana Red is not a limited edition color, but it is the only color available on the Dynamic Edition here in the US, like I said. So starting off with the exterior of this car is based on the Sport, I guess you could say, here in the US, but it is technically the highest trim you can get here in the US above Sport, but there are very few changes between the Dynamic and the Sport. But one of the changes between the Dynamic and the Sport is the tires. As you can see, they are Michelin Pilot Sport 4S. Now the regular Sport gets the Pilot Sport 4, which is just a slightly harder compound tire, which means it's just slightly less grippy than the Pilot Sport 4S on this car. But these are the same 19-inch wheels available on the Sport Edition, with of course the 4-piston Brembo brakes up front and the 2-piston Brembo brakes out back. Now one other thing that separates the Dynamic Edition from the regular Sport Edition is the brake pads. Now I have not confirmed that 100%, but I believe a more aggressive brake pad is put in these Brembos for the Dynamic Edition, since it is supposed to be the top of the line model and the most sporty you can get. Now out back here, of course, we have the Genesis G70 badge, as well as the 3.3T and H-Track, as this one is an all-wheel drive version. We have the combination LED taillights with the incandescent reverse and turn signal balls, which I think is a terrible decision by Hyundai and Genesis to not put a full LED lamp on this car, because it just needs it. That's a very common mod for owners to do. We have the dual outlet exhaust down here with the rear backup sensors, and of course your camera right above the license plate. It is a very good looking vehicle, especially when it's clean like this. Of course, we have the black chrome door handles, trim, fender vents, which are functional on the Dynamic Edition, which again is a lot of this comes on the Sport as well. Again, we have the full LED headlights with LED turn signals down below and LED daytime running lights with, again, these accents, which are part of the Sport and Dynamic Editions. Of course, you guys can see all the cooling and the intercooler and stuff in there, as this is the twin turbo 3.3 liter. You can see your front camera for your 360 cam, as well as the adaptive cruise sensor in the grill right there, as well as the front parking sensors on the front bumper. Now these vents are just like some of the other Hyundai models, and they provide an air curtain for better aerodynamics when cruising on the highway. And one last thing to point out is the cameras in the mirrors for the 360 camera, as well as your turn signals, and of course the large sunroof, not a panoramic sunroof, on the G70. Now let's go ahead and take a look on the interior, since this is one of the best aspects about this car. Of course, on the Dynamic Edition you have the Nappa quilted leather. This is the red stitching, which you can also get a gray stitching on some of the other models, but Dynamic came with red. You have the aluminum trim here on the door, memory seats, the Lexicon 16 speaker surround sound system. and all your window switches, your mirror switches, and stuff like that. The car has the illuminated Genesis door sills, which is an accessory, and these are actually battery operated, which I'm not a huge fan of, but it's cool to see that this car has that. Of course, we already have the WeatherTech mats installed, which is a must. The aluminum pedals down there. These seats are just amazing on this car. Now over here we have your lane keep, your gas cap release, trunk release, blind spot switch, as well as your dash illumination, power tilt telescoping steering wheel, as well as your light and all your steering wheel controls right there. Of course, your adaptive cruise stuff is on this side, and your audio stuff is on this side. Of course, the steering wheel tilts down. It does not retract in any way when the car is off. Now let's go ahead and start it up. Now, as you can see, the car only has 446 miles on it, even though we've had it almost a month. So very few miles have been put on it, mainly because we have been out of town on a trip over the last week. So you guys might have seen that on Instagram. But anyways, you can see you have your heads-up display up there, which is color and adjustable. Coming over here, you have the 8-inch, mainly Hyundai infotainment system. It's a good infotainment system, but there's no other controls other than a touch operation for this unit in the G70, unlike the G80 and G90. We have all your Genesis customization, stuff like that, climate, your nav and everything like that. So basically the Hyundai infotainment system with all your hard controls right here,
soundtrack to his 19
down here at the bottom. So good to have hard buttons in addition to the touchscreen, but again, it kind of sucks not having the dial control. All your hard buttons, you have the heated steering wheel, the auto climate control, dual zone, heated and ventilated seats, as well as your rear defrost, front defrost buttons. Below that, we have a cubby that slides shut with your wireless charging pad, as well as USB aux 12 volt right here. Now here's the Genesis key if anybody's interested. Very nice quality key compared to the old Hyundai Genesis that this car replaced that we had. No shiny gloss piano black plastic on it, which I am just, a big fan, or not a big fan of rather. Of course, you have your 8-speed Hyundai design transmission with the reverse here. Of course, you have your 360 cameras. The mirrors do tilt down when going in reverse. You have all your different views and stuff like that. Let's go ahead and put it back in park, which is a button. Now behind that, you have your drive mode selection, which is Sport, Custom, Comfort, Eco, and Smart. There's quite a few options, and you can tailor custom to your liking and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and see what you guys can customize. So of course you can customize the powertrain, steering, suspension, and all-wheel drive for your, I guess, individual needs in that custom mode. Very nice to have. Of course, the Sport is going to be your fully sport setting, and Comfort is your daily driving setting. Two couples here, very nice with some like knurled trim around it. Coming back here, you do have your center console storage with a USB charge only port, as well as a decent amount of storage. As you can see, it's kind of filled up right now, but not too bad. It is very nice padded right here. And over here on the Genesis G70, you do have seat controls for the passenger side. Very cool to have. Not sure why they put that on such a small car like this, but cool to have nonetheless. Now coming up top here, you do have your auto dimming rear view mirror with HomeLink. Kind of like a Hyundai mirror, but a little different design. Not my favorite design, but again, it is what it is. Sunglass storage, full LED interior illumination, as well as your sunroof controls. Go ahead and open that up. Now this is an extra wide sunroof, but it's not a full panoramic or anything like that. As you can see, it doesn't even open up all the way, but it is plenty of light, and in my opinion, I would rather have a large one like this that's not panoramic compared to a panoramic one which has some structural creaking from time to time in some of our other cars. So I definitely like to see this better. The headliner is super soft. Of course, you have your LED lighting up top. It still has the plastic on the mirrors, which is nice. Continues down the A-pillar as well. Very nice stitching. Of course, your dashboard is fully stitched as well. Now you do have your paddle shifters on the steering wheel as well as your rain sensing wipers over here. Let's go ahead and check out the back seat really quick. Now the back seat is something that owners have been regularly complaining about being extra small, and I have to agree it is pretty small for this size vehicle. But on the door right here you do have your speakers for your Lexicon surround system, as well as your 3-stage heated seats and your window switch. A little more storage down here. No illumination on the door sills back here, but that's not really to be expected. Now I am 5'9" and I'm sitting behind my driving position right now, and there's a decent amount of room for myself because, you know, I'm fairly short, sitting behind, you know, a shortish driver, but not a ton of foot room under here, but again, not too big of a deal. Rear vents, as well as a USB charge port. I'm glad they finally put something in the back seat because the 2015 or last generation Hyundai Genesis did not have anything in the back seat, so I'm glad to see that. But nice to see your vents and everything like that. You do have cup holders on your armrest. Armrest is padded. Nothing to complain about there. No pass-through in this car, unlike the G80, but that is because the rear seats do fold down 60-40 split, which is great. So let's go ahead and check that out. You do have a coat hanger or something like that there, as well as right here up by the door handle. So nice to have all that. Now getting in and out of the back seat is a little tricky if you're taller, but that's just one thing, that this car is just a little smaller than the rest of the competition. Now unfortunately for the 2019 model year, there is no power trunk on the G70. That is something that in Canada they changed for 2020, and I'm assuming here in the United States they might do the same thing, as add the power trunk. That was one of the only changes for 2020. But looking out back here, you can see you have access to your tail light and everything like that, storage. You can see the seats do fold down, as well as you have 2 lights above the trunk here, LED. Not a very tall trunk, not a ton of room in it, but for the size car, it's not awful. And it's definitely nice to have a power trunk, but unfortunately the 2019 model does not have it. That's the one thing we miss from the Hyundai Genesis. You do have all 3 auto dimming mirrors. As you can see, that one does have auto dimming as well. Just a very high quality interior, and the interior of the thing is one of the strongest points as to why to get this car over the Kia Stinger, as well as some of the suspension tweaks and the weight differences and stuff like that. But that is one of the huge advantages over the Kia Stinger, which shares the platform. Now let's go ahead and pop the hood and check under there. It does have struts, which is great and expected on this level of vehicle. But as you can see, this is the 3.3 liter twin turbo, producing 365 horsepower and 376 pound-feet of torque. But again, this is a very stout engine for this vehicle, and this car does 0 to 60 in just 4.5 seconds, which is rated by the manufacturer. So it is one quick vehicle to 60, along with those grippy tires. This is just one fun vehicle to drive. Not as performance oriented as I guess some of the other vehicles it might compete with, but for the price point they designed this to be at, it is one sporty vehicle, very fun to drive. Definitely as a daily driver, which, you know, unfortunately I'm not daily driving it, but it'll keep up with pretty much anything on a daily drive and on public roads, so it's very fun to drive. Now, as you guys may or may not know, my dad traded a 2015 Hyundai Genesis 3.8 H-Track Ultimate in on this car. That car was a good car, it just wasn't what he was looking for in terms of sportiness and the overall size of it. He wanted to kind of downsize into something else. And this is definitely a huge upgrade over that car, although like I said, there are a couple downfalls, like no power trunk, no dial for the infotainment system, and those are the two main things that we miss from that car that this car does not have. But in terms of driving dynamics, this car puts that car on a totally lower level. This car, like I said, the Pilot Sport 4S tires, the twin turbo 3.3 liter, and the adjustable dampers, they just provide a very great driving experience for this car. Now unfortunately there aren't going to be too many mods done to this car or anything like that, because you know he doesn't want to mess with the warranty or anything like that. I really want to get LED bulbs in the back taillights, and there is one thing that he is going to have to get done, and that is a new set of wheels and tires for winter time, because he does plan on driving this car at least somewhat in the winter time. So I'm in charge of finding new wheels and tires for winter. I believe he's going to go with an all-season tire instead of just a dedicated winter tire. It's understandable, but again, it's his car, so his choice. But I believe we're going to try to find an 18-inch wheel and some square tires, so there aren't staggered wheels and tires like there are now. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. If you guys enjoyed it, leave a thumbs up. I'm super excited about this car. I hope you guys are too, because again, it is one of 400 Dynamic Editions sold in the US. They only sold 400 of each limited edition, so I'm pretty excited to have this car in the garage and able to make videos on it. I have a couple videos that I am working on right now about this car, so stay tuned for those. Let me know what you guys want to see regarding this car, and I'll see what I can do to make it happen. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next video.